Hey everyone, welcome back to Intro to Communism, Part 4. We're still using Dr. Tyler's PowerPoint. Particularly, we are exploring the next question 4 on your outline. How did the Soviet government terrorize and murder 20 million Russians? This comes after last video, which we looked at the power structures that enabled the murder of 20 million Russians. In this video, we're going to explore three main areas. First, the general timeline for Lenin's 6 years of rule. He died prematurely, really, but 1918 to 24, and then we're going to look at I'm forgetting the other three here. Why what their general approach was for or really recognizing that they had to kill people in order to make it through this phase, and finally some modes of execution that they enforced. So here's the timeline. He first introduces mass terror in August 9, 1918. And then there's an assassination attempt. We'll look at that in a moment. And then he starts his Red Terror. Notice literally within a month, he begins Red Terror, weaponizes the courts a few months later, and then he begins to really try to create the Soviet Superman. But he realizes he's not killing fast enough, so he needs to make this a little bit better streamlined process, right? And so he's got to speed up the trials. And in order to do this, he has to unleash the Cheka. The Cheka is the originator of the modern day KGB. KGB, it's the Russian secret police that's designed to protect the government from the people, because the people, well, don't really like what the government's doing. So the government's got to protect itself. So the KGB is the Cheka is the beginning of this. They did exist under the czars prior to this, but they're much more refined, much more precise, and much better at what they do, as we'll see with the methods that they're using. Here's his famous hanging order. Comrades, the locals, kulaks, uprising in 5 districts must be crushed without pity. You must make an example of them. Hang them publicly, 100 of them at least. Publish their names, seize their grains, single out these hostages, as I've listed in yesterday's telegram. Do all this so that for miles around, they see it, they understand, they tremble, and they tell themselves that we are out to kill them. P.S. Find tougher people. This is a big deal for what he's doing. Well, in that sense, then they start to not like him. So there's actually an assassination attempt on him. The lady actually does lodge a bullet in his neck, but they end up interrogating her. She refuses, and then she was shot and placed in a barrel and burned later on. Now, jumping through, check out this for the 10 million. 10 million Russians must be annihilated, right? To overcome our enemies, we must have our own socialist militarism. We must carry along with us only 90 million of our 100 million. That means that 10 million, 10% really has to be done away with. And we actually find this same number with the American progressives. They're overtly talking about leaving behind 10% of the population. The lowest 10% of the population is what they're after. Well, let's finally look at their interrogation methods here. Okay, here's their basic ways, the Cheka's basic ways to get information out and to instill terror among the people. They rolled naked people around in barrels studded internally with nails. Or, it's pretty cold there, they poured water on naked prisoners until they became living ice statues. And you can see some other examples there of how they instituted this mass terror and how they murdered millions and millions of people. It was terrible.